In this lesson, we're going to learn about the GetURL action. In basic usage, this has two functions. First, it's a hyperlink. We can use it to link to other websites or other pages within our site. Second, GetURL can send user data to an external source, like we do with a form or questionnaire that the viewer fills out and sends back to us. The data that GetURL sends is simply the variables in the movie clip that GetURL is called from. And this is how feedback forms and questionnaires work. We use input text fields, like this one, that allow the viewer to type their information in, along with components like radio buttons and checkboxes to construct a form. Each one of these generates a variable containing the information from the viewer's input. For example, this input text box generates a variable called the text. Select it and hit F8. Exactly how you process that data, though, depends on you. One common method is using something called a mailgate. This is a CGI script that sits on your server and waits for information to be sent to it. When it receives data, it packages that data and forwards it to, say, your email inbox. Other variables you might need to generate manually, such as the recipient. And this is easy enough to do. Just declare a string type variable in the same timeline that holds the GetURL action and set the contents as your email address. Now we're going to attach the GetURL action to a button. So either create one or grab the file called buttons.fla from your work files. This one has a button ready to go. Select the button, open the Actions panel, and look under Global Functions and Browser/Network. The GetURL action is here. Now I'm going to use Script Assist here so I can show you the parameters that we need to set. But of course, as always, there are other ways to do this. Double-click the GetURL action and have a look at the top of the script window. First off, we have the URL itself. It can be an absolute URL such as http://www.vtc.com, or it can be a local URL as well, like a file in the same folder as your Flash presentation. If you're using a mailgate type setup, just drop in the URL that it uses to receive input. Next up is the window. And this will just add tag information to the link to tell the browser which window to use to open the link. _self will replace the current content, _blank will open a new browser window, and _parent and top are used for web pages constructed using frames. And finally, we have variables. For simple hyperlinks to load another page, use don't send. But if this is going to be sending data somewhere, as in the case of a viewer feedback form, you'll need to use either get or post. The only difference between these two is that get will append or add the information to the end of the URL that you're sending, and it's best to use with a small number of variables, while post sends a separate transmission containing the variables. This option is best when you're sending a large amount of data. Now we're going to end this lesson, but in your work files you'll find a file called geturl.fla. This contains the rudimentary elements of a feedback form with a few variables declared and an input text field. If you have access to a mailgate, look in the action script in that file to drop in your mailgate address and recipient email address. Be aware though that for this to work, you may have to upload it to a web server first. Some mailgates don't work when you're running the Flash content from your local machine. And that's it for the GetURL action. Let's move on.